Hello, everybody. Welcome one, welcome all. Welcome to the Bleav in Iowa State podcast. Cody is back. Welcome back, Cody.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I've just been busy. I was gone for a few days, just fulfilling some stuff, like it's some religious obligations that I've had. So,
Sure.
real quick, yeah. I mean, I may look a little different, but yeah, that's because of that.
Okay. Well, we are glad that you are back, and this is going to be a good episode today, guys. Man, the defensive side of the ball. This has been one of our strongest units on this team. Um, Cody, this was a top 10 unit nationally last year. There are a few notes that I want to break down today and a few achievements that this defense produced last year. So last year, we had a +8 turnover margin, which is absolutely amazing. Which I Bleav I looked and did some research. I Bleav that was like top 20 in the nation, which is like a +8 turnover margin. Basically means you're almost getting a turnover every single game, and that means that your offense is doing a good job taking care of the football, which this offense did. It's
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing Iowa State is kind of known for its defense, and when you think Iowa State, a lot of people are probably going to say, "Oh, they're really known for the defense," considering that Iowa State's usually like one of the top defenses in the conference, and being led by a longtime defensive coordinator, John Heacock, who a couple years ago, 2022, was actually a nominee for the Riles Award, that going to the best defensive coordinator in the country, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're absolutely right. That he was definitely considered for that award. Uh, and the thing is that this defense is now the staple of college football. I remember that it was either like a few summers ago, where there was different coaches coming up to learn that type of system. So there's like either there's teams in the conference or even like blue bloods that are using that dime stack 3-3-5 defense. So it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and honestly, I think once John Heacock brought the 3-3-5 defense to Ames alongside coming along with Matt Campbell, that really changed the whole dynamic of the Big 12 in general.
Hmm.
Because while we were growing up, like in the early, like the late 2000s, early 2010s, Big 12 was known for having barely any resemblance to defense. It was just shootout after shootout. It was just whoever got the ball last would more than often be the winner, and who just they just everybody would just run up the score. There was no resemblance to defense until John Heacock and the crew came around.
Yeah, man. One game that just is burned into my mind. I think it was that 2012 game with Baylor and West Virginia. The game was like 77-63. I'm like, what? This is like a basketball game. What is this?
Wait! Before you move that, please tell me there was an overtime.
No, this was in regulation, dude.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you can even look it
Oh
up on YouTube, dude.
no!
It was like at one point the game was like 70-56. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, there is no defense being played. This was like the Geno Smith and like Tavon Austin team. But like, yeah, that was it.
Oh,
It was back and forth,
okay.
back and forth, back and forth. But yeah, that's
Mhm.
why. Um, there. So like continuing into some of these other achievements that this defense achieved. Let's talk about getting 16 interceptions and 3 recovered fumbles, man. Like 16 interceptions, man. When you have ball hawking guys like Jeremiah Cooper, Malik Verdon, um, TJ Tampa, and
Oh yeah.
Miles Purchase, like it, bro. I Bleav with getting Hank Poteet as our secondary, our cornerbacks coach, and with Deion Broomfield as our safeties coach. I think they naturally became more aggressive, because before they had good defense, but they were never had a chance to like really force turnovers. So that really like helped us in with our young offense and getting more possessions for us.
Yeah, and I mean, like I believe there was at some point it was early in last season that Iowa State was like top three in the country with interceptions. I can't
Yeah.
remember who else was up there, but I knew Iowa State was top three. And I Bleav Jeremiah Cooper, he got a handful of interceptions. Like he was the guy that you usually like will look to see like if he gets an interception. I mean, he had the pick six in the game against UNI, and that I think that really set the tone for kind of how the defense would be coming into the 2023 season. And I think it carried out overall. The only blemish I Bleav was on Iowa State defense in that season was Oklahoma, and that was in Norman where they gave up 50 points. But
Right.
I mean, other than that, Iowa State was a really solid lockdown defense.
They were, man. They were. I believe they were the top defense in the league last year, even more than Texas, which is absolutely amazing coming out of this group. And just with scoring defense, they were third in the Big 12. They were second in total and rushing defense, and then sixth in passing defense. So just absolutely stellar numbers. I do want to dive deep into a few players, if you will. Um, I think that this defense can be better in 2024. So I have a list of players that I look out for, and maybe that you look out for. What are your thoughts on Jamiah Cooper?
Oh, I love Jeremiah Cooper. Like when I first like that after that first game against you and I when he had the pick six, I was like, yeah, Jeremiah Cooper is going to be somebody that you may not want to throw the football at because one he'll pick it off or two he'll make a great defensive play and break up a pass, and we saw that. And he's also pretty physical as well. I mean, there were a few times,
Mm-hmm.
especially I Bleav it was the Oklahoma State game where it was like a third and mid range, and Oklahoma State was like think it passed like it was like a flat pass in the flat, and Jeremiah Cooper stopped the receiver short of the first down. And the way the guy plays defense, it is really just some like kind of how he just goes about it. Like the guy's out there trying to establish himself as like the guy on that defense and somebody that you have to look out for. And obviously, coaches who are preparing for Iowa State need to consider Jeremiah Cooper, but also in hand that defense in a whole, even just outside of Jeremiah Cooper, is it hurts your head if you are an offensive coordinator trying to prepare for a defense like that because they can look and they bring out so many different unique looks. And obviously the 3-3-5, you never know what's going to happen. Either just a 3-man rush, or you can bring like a couple linebackers up to the line to blitz. You may bring a corner or a defensive back from the outside to blitz. It's a lot to prepare for if you are preparing for Iowa State.
Yeah, I completely agree, dude. Plus, he had, I believe, like six interceptions last year, which was like close up to tops in the nation. Like he was definitely a ball hacking guy who definitely excited to see play. Another guy I wanted to talk about is Zach Lovett. Zach Lovett was definitely he was an off ball linebacker. He was sparingly used, especially in pass defense as a spy. I like that for him. So I see for him to have a bigger role this year, but definitely in it or in different defensive situations where he can be used as a spy. Look for him to be a big contributor in that realm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I kind of wanted to take this back. So, you mentioned the guys like Jeremiah Cooper, Malik Verdon, Miles Purchase, but we're forgetting Bo Freeler. I think Bo Freeler is kind of like the heart and soul of this defense.
Yes.
The guy brings such a different like passion and energy to this defense, and he's somebody to look out for. Like especially because I've seen a few plays, he can get into the backfield real fast. He's very physical. He looks to aim to launch the ball loose, and to his credit, he's been able to cause some turnovers and benefit from it. I'm thinking I don't think he maybe caused a turnover in the Baylor game, but the guy can lay out the wood. The guy can just upend any receiver and he may cause a turnover.
He's also just a missile coming into the defense into the backfield and hitting a running back. I'm like, how the heck is this guy coming all the way from the safety position and just blowing up a running back? It's absolutely amazing, dude. Like I
Mhm.
was like, holy crap.
Yeah, that kind of closing speed. That's the closing speed that will get you looks to the next level. Pro scouts can look at that closing speed and be like, all right, yeah, this guy may be considered to look at, especially if you are a defense that likes to run like those safety blitzes just coming up from like deep down the field. You just bring a defensive back over from like the edge. You get that closing speed. You are going to be able to cause some havoc in the backfield.
Definitely. And with causing havoc in the backfield, I want to move to a few of the pass rushers. I wanted to talk about Tyler Anyedem and Ikenna Eziogu.
Mm.
Um, Ikenna Eziogu had, I believe, like 3 or 4 sacks yesterday as a freshman, and he came onto the scene, and he came along with that with just in that Kansas City pipeline. Kansas City just has so much untapped talent down there, and that we're finally building a pipeline. I'm so excited for that. And Tyler Anyedem, who had a pretty solid season last year. I look for both of them. Because there was I think if there might have been one weak point with this defense is that some games we weren't able to get a consistent pass rush. Um, so I do think that with these guys coming in for another year, I do think that they'll be able to get more of a pass rush, or come up with different. Or I think they're going to be blitzing it. I see them blitzing it, coming up with blitzes a lot more.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, the defensive line was one of the weak points of the defense. I mean, there was criticism from people like me and from many others that I've been around with, like watching the team. We just were not able to really get that pressure from the defensive line, which would cause like a lot more give the opposing QB way more time. That O line would hold up, and then eventually the QB would find a pass just in an open spot where we don't really have a defender. And I think if we are able to not only create more pressure up on the D line, but the D line can get more penetration, be able to cause more havoc in the backfield, then I think it helps our secondary and our linebackers as well.
Yes, I think that may have been the problem in the Memphis game, because just like that first play of the game, or a few plays in the game, that 75-yard touchdown to start the game, like that quarterback had plenty of time, and he just bombed it down the field. I'm like, holy cow!
Yeah,
So I do think that that would be one of the bigger improvements in this team, and I think that will help with one of the big guys who I like to call Big Citrus, Dominic Orange.
yeah, Dominic Orange. Like I know, like before the start of last season, you saw that photo of him like in training camp, right? That
Yes.
that photo. I was like, dude, if he can produce like on the defensive line for us, we might have a solid defense. And I mean, my only like thing was he really wasn't able to do much, but I'm guessing this because like he was just often like double team and like the O line just had him scouted, and especially in the game against Texas, we we was not able, like basically not able to do anything. And I think that was just something that other teams were able to exploit is because we weren't able to get penetration. But I Bleav now, like with that season under his belt, and he has room to grow. I Bleav Dominic Orange has room to grow, and if possible, he might end up as like a Dominican Sue type, like back in his day in Nebraska when Dominican Sue was causing chaos when Nebraska back when they were the Big 12.
Yeah.
I think Dominic Orange like has that year now. He
Yeah,
might come
man.
out of the game. He might get more sacks.
Bro, yes. I think he would definitely be able to get multiple sacks from the defensive nose tackle position. Another
Mhm.
guy that is going to step into one of the starting quarterback positions is John Tez Williams. John Tez Williams was a young guy, another young guy last year that got just like all these young guys, man, have tons of talent. He stepped in last year, and he did take his lumps a little bit in some games. But near the end of the year, he was a very solid guy, and I'm really excited to see the steps that he takes for this defense.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah, and like you said, yeah, Williams came on towards the end of the season, and we needed that because if you think about it, towards the end of the season, we injuries were starting to pile up. I mean, you had
Oh yeah,
Jeremiah Cooper, Emily Verdon, and Miles Purchase being out for a certain period of time, but that kind of goes the caveat on how they play defense. And I mean, even the defensive coordinator John Heacock mentioned it with how physical those guys play. They were prone to being like off the field for an extended period of time. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to stop playing that way, and I'm pretty sure John Heacock is not going to discourage guys from playing that style of defense. That's just how they play. I think it's just a matter of can we have guys that are able to step in that can do their job like as well, if not even better than them, whenever we have like the main guys out, say Jeremiah Cooper, Bo Freeler, and Bleav for Don.
Right, because unfortunately, with the way that they play, like with that aggressive type of defense, unfortunately, I think they're going to be a few games probably during the season that they miss. However, the good thing is that a lot of guys in the secondary that were depth guys got tons of playing time, like Tayshawn James in the Oklahoma State game. Drew Surges, he had a good game in the K State game. Like
Yeah,
all these depth guys, dude, I think are gonna really determine the outcome of the season. It's great that they all got playing time. So when their number is called, I Bleav they'll be able to step up when needed to.
yeah. So yeah, so we tackled cornerbacks, defensive backs. We've tackled the D line. Let's talk about the linebacker room. I think that's where you're going to see a lot of growth, and it's going to be a very competitive room in the linebacking room. But I
Man.
think, yeah, unfortunately, I believe we lost. Was it Will McLaughlin or was it Sadowski? It was one of those two, I believe, that we lost to injury like during this offseason. So
Oh
that's going to be a
no.
big hit to our linebacker room. I
Yeah.
can't confirm with me if that's the case, but I do remember a linebacker going down during spring training. So that's going to be a hit. But that doesn't mean that Iowa State doesn't have guys that can step right up.
Right.
And I think the big linebacker, the one that like the name that comes to mind is Caleb Bacon.
Dude, yes, he was on PFF's highest
Mm.
grades for returning linebackers in the Big 12. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see
Yeah.
what steps he takes, man.
Yeah. Iowa State's bringing home the bacon. I mean, oh, you had our big NIL deal where it was purchase more ham and bacon, and you had three of those guys, I Bleav, were defensive. And I think that was just something that's just so hilarious. When I first saw that deal, I'm like, I, I couldn't look at it without laughing at it so hard just because of just it was a bit corny at first, but it's
It was a
great.
bit,
I mean,
yeah, it was a bit corny, bro. But like it literally, it just fits our team, man. It fits our team so well.
yeah. Given where you're basically like out in the Midwest, we're a very big agricultural like school,
Right.
it makes perfect sense. And I mean, those two things are really great for tailgates.
Oh, I completely agree, dude. Just having that type of, we're like an ag school and having that type of, cultural that type of cultural background and having that type of NIL deal
Mhm.
is just absolutely they hit it out of the park with that one. And
Yeah.
like I said before, with Zachary Levitt, he will step in, I think, a lot more this year at linebacker. Um, Another guy that I would look out for is Carson Willick. Carson Willick is a guy that I think that that I see him stepping in with and filling in that linebacker position. And also a guy from the 2024 class, Kel Regina, out of Downers Grove, Illinois, in the Chicagoland area. I see him being a guy that I think will come in and be a big contributor for us. Maybe learn from either I don't know which one you said was out, but if Sadowski gets out, they get him and Sadowski will get some time. So that is going to be interesting to see, man, with this defense, how they shape to be. I still expect them to be a top 10 um, defense. So with that being said, do you have any other guys that you look out to contribute to this defense?
No, I mean this whole unit as a whole is one to look out for, and I really I can't really think of names right now because the defense is very deep in every single possible manner. Like just looking at the three different levels and seeing their growth as the season went on was amazing. Now back to Caleb Bacon. I did during the Oklahoma
Yes.
State game. I think that was the game for me that said, okay, this guy is going to be one of the staples and a foundation for the linebacking room. I mean, he could possibly follow in the steps of Mike Rose. Mike Rose
Mm-hmm.
obviously was like one of our best linebackers during his time here in Ames, obviously with Brock Purdy and whatnot. And I mean, Mike Rose is doing pretty well in, I mean, the UFL. I mean, just recently, he, alongside of another Iowa State alum, Willie Harvey Jr. on the St. Louis Battlehawks, made it to the UFL playoffs. Unfortunately, fell short against the San Antonio Brahmas. But even with that, Willie Harvey Jr. actually was recipient. I think it was like the best defensive player in the UFL.
Yeah, and he's getting a shot with my Dallas Cowboys in the camp. So I really, really, really hope, just for my sake, that he makes the Cowboys roster. That would be awesome. That would be an awesome story, just as a really, really big Cowboys fan. Another one of the young guys that I think that can contribute this year is Cooper Abel, number 47.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of good things about him from spring camp, and the coaches are raving about him. So I also look for him to be a guy that can contribute. I, for me, one of the things that I want to talk about is what we think our expectations are for this defense, or what do you think would be a successful or expectations success, or what would be an expectation for a successful defense? Like, do you have any like numbers or a certain number of turnovers that you would like to see, or sacks, something like that?
Mm, no, I don't really. I think just the main thing is we just need to continue building up on our reputation. I mean, Iowa State continues to be a top defense in the Big 12. I think if they get into like the top five or top three units as a whole, especially in this expanded Big 12, I think
Yes.
that's going to be just done pretty well. Now, we forgot to mention the big hole I think is going to be needed to be filled is the departure of TJ Tampa because he obviously was
Yeah.
the quintessential piece on that Iowa State defense. Like nobody would throw in that direction. So basically, it was just TJ would just lock down your number one defender, like your number one wide receiver, and you had to plan that out. And rarely did TJ Tampa ever get beat by a receiver.
He was so good because he played receiver before this. So basically, he would just run your route, and then if he did, he'd pick it off. So like,
Mhm.
that's like the key. That's like the best thing of, or the best trait of being a former wide receiver in the corner. It's like, okay, you know what? I know I've ran all these routes before. I know what this guy is gonna run. So you can run that route, and then that will cause a mismatch, and
Mhm.
then you can beat the quarterback into throwing an interception. I do think with Miles Purchase will step up naturally and become a better corner. I do think that John Tess Williams still has a much higher upside. Um,
Mhm.
for me, just the question I asked earlier, I think a key for us is to stay near the top of the conference in run defense. Run defense is definitely one of our strengths. And of course, as you saw last year, like for the first time in a minute, we forced tons of turnovers. So we were a lot more um, risky and trying to get turnovers. So I like us forcing turnovers. I think if we get maybe like at least about the same amount of interceptions and fumbles, I think that would be a really good season. And I think what takes this defense to another level, if we can consistently get pressure, I think that will be the key for us. Just getting this defense to a higher level, up there with some of the elite of the elite, will take us to another level, and we'll maybe, like we said, we'll have the season that we are dreamed of here at Iowa State.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the big thing. That's my biggest thing because I'm a defensive nut. Like I love when
Mm-hmm.
defense does well, and it basically can like turn the tide of a game.
Oh
Like
yeah,
either yeah, like one interception, sack here or there, or even a fumble recovery can be the start of getting like not only the team rejuvenated, but also you can get the crowd going, especially if it's a home game. It's really tight, and you make a defensive play, a big defensive play. Then it basically just it boosts your confidence as a defense because you know you can play up to not only like the expectations of those like around the area of the fan base, but also the expectations of the your teammates, your coaches, and even yourself.
right. No, I completely agree, Cody. And just like not just like defensively, offensively, they'll give you extra possessions. The team out east is famous for doing this. Is putting their offense in the situations of short fields and them to be able to create points out of that. Just being able to get extra possessions is crucial in today's game with like these offenses that score almost 40 points a game. Like
Yeah.
you gotta be able to slow teams down. I do
Hmm.
think, as a whole in the Big 12, I think a lot of the, that where no defense is played, I think a lot there's been a lot of more defensive teams. So you gotta be solid on both sides of the lines in this conference.
Hmm. Yeah, just yeah. And speaking of the team out east, obviously, usually like those games are usually known for like defense. Like it's rare to see like very high scoring games. I think the last time I recall any like high scoring Cyhawk game was that 3 overtime thriller in Ames. I think it was 2011 was the year of that happening, and that's such a blur to see where like that Iowa State team was to where it is now. I think
Right.
if you match up like you match up two of the best defenses in the region, perhaps you have two of the best defensive in the country. Now, do I expect Iowa State to replicate the success of like the Iowa defense? No, absolutely not. But I expect this defense to take a really big step up and
Right.
I think be able to shut down some of these like offensive powerhouses. Now everybody's going to talk like the big like I guess like the one team that really stands out to me in terms of offense is Colorado. Like everybody's talking about Colorado this, Colorado that. Obviously, you have a talented quarterback in Shadur Sanders, then you got Travis Hunter on or at wide receiver. Like that's a pretty good combination right there. But the one area now, although we don't play them, uh, this year, I really, really wanted to play Colorado
I
because
do
it
too.
would have been so much. That would have been so much fun, and it's a lot of eyeballs because simply Colorado, it's Deion Sanders. He gets a lot of eyeballs on you, whether like people like you, people hate you, or whatever. The guy knows how to get eyeballs.
It's true,
But
man. I believe they have like starting off the year. I believe the Nebraska game is a night game and the Colorado State game is a night game. So they're already going to be. Oh yeah, and Thursday night, that opening weekend on Thursday night, they're playing North Dakota State at home on ESPN. So yeah, like anytime you play Colorado, they're gonna have eyeballs attached to you. Um, now, hmm, now, like
yeah,
I
I guess with that, sorry, but going back, it just kind of shows like if you find a unit, like obviously I would love to see how this defense does against like these like big name quarterbacks. The main big names I can think of are going to be more on the second half of the Iowa State schedule. Utah, if they have Cam Rising, that's going to be a big test for that defense. And also
yes.
Kansas State with Avery Johnson, that's going to be another big test. But I think a big test that I could see like in the earlier portion of the season is at West Virginia.
Yeah, man, that offensive line had a pretty good success last year. That's going to be, I think, the real big test for us this year, or one of the biggest games of the year. I believe, there Utah, K State, even KU. I think with if Jalen Daniels is healthy,
Yeah,
this is they're really really going to test this defense. So like I like to see these are definitely going to be measuring six games for our defense to see where they stack up against the top teams in the Big 12.
correct. And yeah, just yeah, that game is yeah, it's just a lot of things to like look forward to. A lot of expectations are going to be Iowa State defense. But I trust and I ensure that John Heacock and the rest of that coaching staff is going to get these boys right and to make sure that these boys are playing at the absolute best that they could possibly play every snap in for 60 minutes.
Completely agree, man. Well, I think that was a pretty good preview of our defense. Thank you for joining us today, Cody. I'm really excited. These previews that we've done over the last week has me really excited. So
Yeah.
it just like I've been saying, the entire offseason, sky's the limit. I'm excited to see where this team goes, and plus, bro, like the offseason is almost over, man. We're almost getting into July, and just I Bleav 3 weeks from now will be media days. So we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have
Yeah.
look forward to more of content of that, and like by that time it'll be almost football time and tailgating time again. So
Yep.
from here at the Bleav in Iowa State Network, my name is Tyler Carter,
And my name is Cody Van Ciello.
and you guys have a great day. Go Cyclones!
Go State.